genera más información y usted debe estar actualizado. Las noticias más relevantes del campo cristiano las encontrará aquí en Infórmese. Ministerios.
Brandon Lake lidera la adoración ante 70,000 personas en el CMA Fest. El artista cristiano Brandon Lake impactó en el Festival CMA 2025, llevando la adoración al público de música country. Ante casi 70,000 personas en el Nissan Stadium, Lake interpretó junto a Jelly Roll su éxito Hard Fought Hallelujah, canción ganadora del premio a Canción del Año en los Kellogg Fan Awards. Durante el emotivo espectáculo, Jelly Roll exclamó: "Miren a Brandon llevando la iglesia al estadio Nissan", mientras una gran cruz iluminada y miles de manos levantadas llenaban el escenario. Jelly Roll también oró públicamente, agradeciendo a Dios por la oportunidad de testificar. Lake regresó el domingo con su tema Gratitude, logrando que todo el estadio cantara Aleluya, un momento que se volvió viral. La colaboración en Hard Fought Hallelujah fue significativa para ambos artistas, quienes han superado batallas personales. Jelly Roll, un ex convicto convertido en artista cristiano, atribuyó su éxito a la obra divina. La canción es parte del nuevo álbum de Lake, King of Hearts, que se lanzará este mes. Fuente: Mundo Cristiano.
Hasta aquí compartimos algunas de las noticias más relevantes del campo cristiano. En cualquier momento, volveremos con más. Infórmese.
Mirad cuán bueno y cuán delicioso es habitar los hermanos juntos y en armonía. Cuando David escribe este versículo, intencionalmente inicia con la palabra mirad, porque está llamando nuestra atención. Él quiere que miremos, que nos concentremos en esto, en lo bueno y lo delicioso que es permanecer unidos y en armonía. Cuando podemos trabajar con la ayuda de Dios para la unidad y la armonía, eso traerá frescura a nuestra comunidad, fragancia atractiva, nos hará verdes, vigorosos, nos hará productivos.
Que no han sido días fáciles, que las cosas no han salido como tú esperabas. Te entiendo y puedo ver que tus lágrimas son reales, que te duele lo que ha sucedido, y en ese sentido te puedo entender. Pero hay que levantarse. No estás solo, aquí estoy para extenderte la mano. Que eso te sirva de experiencia, no te quedes ahí estancado. Seguir vale la pena, que hay mucha vida por delante. Seguir vale la pena, no estás aquí por accidente. Seguir vale la pena. Mira pa'l frente y echa pa'lante, que tu tristeza se vuelva alegría y tu mejor sonrisa todos puedan ver. Tienes que levantarte. No estás solo, aquí estoy para extenderte la mano. Y olvídate de tu fracaso, que eso te sirva de experiencia. No te quedes ahí estancado. Seguir vale la pena, que hay mucha vida por delante. Seguir vale la pena, no estás aquí por accidente. Seguir vale la pena. Oh, Dios está contigo. Vuelve a creer, rendirse no está permitido.
This is WSMU La Celestial 106.5 FM.
Esta radioemisora es patrocinada por Magic Transmission, especialista en la reconstrucción de transmisión de vehículos. Trabajos garantizados. 25 años de experiencia. Visítenos en la 10505 Cleveland Road, Garner, North Carolina, 27529. Llámanos al 984-242-4989. Estimados gratis. En asuntos de transmisión, Magic Transmission es la solución. Llámanos al 984-242-4989. Y recuerde que como Magic Transmission no hay dos.
No le cambie, porque a continuación comenzará un programa que bendecirá tu vida. Aquí en la Celestial FM 106.5. El siguiente programa es clasificación A, apto para todo público. Contenido E, entretenimiento.
Toda palabra o punto doctrinal emitido en el siguiente programa es responsabilidad exclusiva del programador y no de esta radio estación.
Bienvenidos a Café con Hispanos, un programa que conecta nuestra fe, nuestros valores como familia, nuestros negocios y proyectos de ley que afectan a nuestra comunidad hispana aquí en Carolina del Norte. Entrevistamos al gobierno y a líderes de nuestra comunidad para dialogar sobre el trabajo que realizan en beneficio nuestro, actualidad y un sabor a dulce hogar. Somos la voz de nuestra gente hispana. Le damos la bienvenida al pastor Gilbert Pagan. Café con Hispanos comienza.
Me dice que me ama cuando escucho llover. Me dice que me ama con un atardecer. Lo dice sin palabras, con las olas del mar. Lo dice en la mañana, con mi respirar.
Welcome, audience, to the afternoon show of Café con Hispanos. We are here with Rep. Jeff Zenger of the North Carolina House. And we're going to talk a little bit about the status of the legislature. We're here in the studios in Raleigh, and Jeff was able to come in and is going to share a little bit about what's going on at the legislature. And we're going to talk about some bills, maybe some other stuff, but we have some more time. But Representative Zenger, thank you for coming to the studio and coming to the show.
I'm glad to do it. It's really a privilege to be here. I'm looking forward to having a great afternoon with you.
Oh, great. Thank you so much. And, we're having coffee together as the Coffee with Hispanics show here, right? We're having coffee together. And we're going to talk a little bit about what's going on at the legislature. And, Jeff, we're in the long session now, right?
Yes,
so help me to understand an audience, the sessions and when it starts and when in theory it ends.
Sure.
And when does a short session begin and when it ends.
So the way it works is each term is a 2-year term. Mm-hmm. So right after the first session after an election, which we just had election in November, is the long session. And that will run, we'll have swearing in January. It runs from the first week or so in February, set to end July 30th. Now, what drives the long session is the budget. I mean, there's lots of other bills and stuff, but the budget is what drives it. So depending on what happens with the budget, it can drag on. Now, in my first 2 terms, the long session drug on the first time all the way around to February of the next year. Then the second long session I did, it went all the way to October.
Uh-huh.
So we have new leadership this time, and Destin Hall is the speaker, and he, everybody on both sides of the aisle, I think, privately went to him and said, look, if you're going to be speaker, we need a schedule.
Right.
So he put one out, he printed it, sent it, put it out there to us, and so June 30th we're done. But we've got 2 separate, two-week times laid out that we can come back if necessary. And that's going to depend on the budget. The budget, I think, will certainly take some wrangling past this, but that'll be just the budget chairs that'll have to do that. All the rest of us will be gone.
Mm-hmm.
So my expectation is the 26th or the 27th
of June.
We're done, and we roll out. And so that's how the long session goes. The short session is after the primary. So
March.
Right. So the primary is in March, and so after the primary, we'll come back. Usually it's like May and June. And that mainly entails budget amendment. So, we had unexpected surpluses, so we did that. Or if we've got some policy changes that don't need to be worked on that we can do. And then any bills that are sitting out there right now that we've passed one house or the other and it's just hanging around, it's not dead.
Mm-hmm.
Next session, the short session, some of that stuff will giddy up and go.
Okay.
And so right now what's happening is, because we know the end is near, it is just busy, frantic, pushing, trying to get your bills moved, trying to get stuff through. And a lot of folks don't realize just how much work it is. We file 1,500, 1,700 bills in the House every session. Only about 9% make it all the way.
Wow.
So
Wow.
It's a lot of work.
Wow. And the legislators are, people don't understand this, the legislators are part-time.
Yeah.
Part-time staff. You're not a full-time employee.
Yeah. Well, a lot of people confuse us with congressmen.
Right.
I had somebody ask me last night, I was at that event, and someone said, so how many staff do you have? One.
Right.
They're like, what? And I go, yeah, I have an assistant.
Uh-huh.
It's like, it's not like Congress where you have 10.
Right.
It doesn't work that way.
Right.
So, yeah, and then we're all part-time, which means we're either retired, independently wealthy, or you're trying to run a business or something on the side, which that's most of them.
Right. Yeah. I know you have a business as well. So a lot of the legislators are business owners, and then they work their schedule around the legislature and the like, and still trying to do business while they're at the legislature. And
it's really difficult.
Right. Yeah. I can imagine if you're in session and you can't take a phone call. I mean, you just can't.
Yep.
You can't do it.
You got to have good people around you back at your business, or you're sunk.
That's exactly right. And I know that there's a lot of interesting bills that have come through the legislature this year. My understanding is that you said it's 1,500 generally, through every session, I guess, and only 9% get through to full.
So it'd be 1,500 every term.
Every term, okay, every 2 years.
Yeah.
Is that all right? So if you break it up, 750. If it is that number, I don't know if it is or not, but between the short and the long session.
Yeah.
Right. So I know there's been a couple of bills that regarding children and families and things of that nature, and one that is close to you that you're championing is I guess the one around social media protection from minors under the age of 16.
Yep.
I've as someone on the periphery, on the outside, running a grassroots organization, and obviously the radio show here and a couple things that I do, I've seen some real good support, but then I've seen some pushback on it. So explain a little bit about your passion behind it and why you're really pushing for this to happen.
Sure. Yeah. Well, I think I will say that if there's one thing that we should be able to rally around, it's our kids. And one of the things that we have seen, and the more we learn about kids being on social media, the worse it gets. And so, pediatric psychiatrists and folks in the mental health field will all tell you, this is not good. There is increased depression, anxiety, all kinds of things that come with kids being on it really young. The other thing is this is the really scary part. It is the number one tool that human traffickers can use to get to your kids. And what's really scary about that is, when I was a kid, and you can tell I'm over 30.
That's a tad.
But when I was young,
right.
You were taught, hey, the guy at the corner that's got ice cream or candy trying to lure you, stay away from him. That kind of thing. Well, now, on these social media platforms, someone who's got bad intentions for your kid can be communicating with them while they're sitting next to you and you don't even know it. And so it's really, really horrible. One of the statistics that I got from, I think it was the FBI, that said every day there's 500,000 predators online going after kids between 9 and 15.
Wow.
I mean, it's unbelievable. So between both of those things, I've got 4 kids. They're all grown right now, and I fought the screen battle and all that stuff. And I was like, we need to give something to parents that can be a tool to kind of be the bad guy. Make Representative Zenger be the bad guy, okay? But
Right.
And there'll be some parents who say thank you, and a lot of parents say thank you. And so the way the bill works is if you're 14 and under, you don't need to be on social media. But if you're 14 to 16, I guess it's 13 and under. If you're 14 to 16, you have to have your parents' permission, so they have to know. And it's just there designed to protect. Let's let our kids be kids. They need to go outside and play baseball, throw rocks, catch stuff in a stream.
Right.
Whatever. But you don't need to be on that. So that was why I pursued it. I will tell you this. The support has been unbelievable. I mean, and I'm talking from every way you can break down our society, whatever group you want to do. I've had people from every one of them come to me and be like, thank you, thank you, thank you. And so that's been really supportive. I've had a little bit of support, and I've had the pushback that I've had has been from not particularly social media, but everybody else online. Everything from people that have businesses online to, I even had the motion picture industry show up.
They want to go after the kids for customers, potential.
And I was like,
I got them. Okay.
That doesn't have anything to do with social media. But here's what's really been terrifying: how many people want access to our kids?
Yeah.
I mean, it is unbelievable the number of folks that came to me. Hey, we need a little tweak. We want to make sure we're excluded. And I'm sitting there thinking, I don't know if I want to.
Yeah.
Help you on that.
There's a lot of product companies that sell products to adults that want to get into the younger children early so that they can obviously get them as customers as they get older, and then they feed their revenue stream until they become seniors. So they want to get to them early. So there's clearly a revenue play here, a money play for the companies. And I know there was a little bit of pushback from what I've heard on people around liberty and freedom. If somebody wants to let their kids go on, that's their business and all that kind of stuff. But I agree with you that there's a lot of risk involved. But you put steps in the legislation, I think, where there's documents that need to be signed, approved, that and the like. And if the parents can do it, want to give their kids social media, they can.
Yeah.
Right? Okay.
Yeah,
so can you explain a little bit about that?
There is.
Yeah.
And it really between the 14 and 16, they have to give permission. But, here's the interesting thing. I had the ACLU come out, and they said, well, it's a violation of the First Amendment, free speech. Okay. And I said, my response was...
That's what I heard, yeah.
So my response was, okay, so then is it the ACLU's position that age restrictions on firearms is a violation of the Second Amendment? Well, that was the end of that conversation.
Gotcha. No, that's good. It's a good point.
We do all kinds of things to protect our kids. They can't drink. They can't smoke. They can. There's just all kinds of things. And we cannot find. The interesting thing is with this whole debate, as people have talked to me, nobody has been able to give me a good reason why they need to be on there. I mean, when you ask, you say, okay, well, tell me what is the benefit of these youngsters being on social media? No response. And so, it's the right thing for us to do. Our kids are our future. And we're like I said, the more that comes out, the more we study it, the more we see what's going on. There's nothing good there.
I don't necessarily disagree with you. I'm okay with it. And there's a lot of concerns on by teachers in the school system regarding TikTok. And a lot of young kids are on TikTok.
Yep.
And these are kids who are less than 14 years old, and they are mimicking behaviors, wording in the classroom because they saw it on TikTok.
Yeah.
So it is contaminating their minds and their vocabulary and their thought process, bringing it into the classroom. So there is some concern, and I'm seeing this from teachers who are sharing this is what I'm seeing, and the kids will say, teachers say, where you get this from? Oh, I got it from TikTok. And the kids don't have any filter. They're gonna tell you where they got it from. Where the adults will probably like they may not tell you where they got it from.
It's interesting, in my district we knock a lot of doors when campaign season, and so we knocked on the door of this one fella, and he is I want to say he was a principal, and he left the school system over in Forsyth, and he went up over the Virginia line to a real rural county, and he's principal there, and he said, we have no electronics in our school. None. He said, we're old-fashioned, chalkboards, there's no phones allowed, all this kind of stuff. And he said, it's fantastic. He said, our kids are knocking it out of the park.
Wow.
Because there's no distraction. He goes, they're not mimicking the behavior they're watching on their phone at lunchtime. And they're not, and so it was just really interesting because he said it is the most. He said he had been in the education for like 35 years. He said the difference is so absolutely stark, it's undeniable.
Wow, and no, that's awesome. How do we police compliance with the social media companies who do it? I read the legislation and I saw it, and there's ways to do that, but how do we actually enforce it and actually track it? It's kind of like, explain that a little bit.
What I think is when you make good legislation, it's legislation that self-polices. Okay? We can't have an agency that's out there running around to see if this kid is on social media. But if we make it, and we did this in here, we made it so that it's actionable. So if something happens, kids are involved in something with a human trafficker, or if their psychological issues develop out of all of this, and the parents find out after the fact, my kid has been on this thing. Well, there's an opportunity to go after the social media stuff. So we put it on the social media companies to verify. This was kind of a funny argument. Someone said, well, how are they going to know? I was like, okay.
Oh, the social media companies?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Someone said, well, how's someone going to know their age? And I was like, are you serious? I said, I tell you what. And I pointed to this young woman. I said, I bet you if she comes up here and we take her phone and she brings up her social media account, and we take mine, bring my social media, we put them next to each other, I bet she gets advertisement for different things than me.
Right.
Yeah, you know why? Because they know that she's a young woman.
Right.
They know that I'm not. And I was like, they absolutely know. In fact, it'd be terrifying if we all really understood what they know.
Right, exactly. So when the legislation, something like this comes up, we're talking about House Bill 301, and it's a bill that was created by Rep. Zenger. It's called Social Media Protections for Minors Under 16. When you come up with something like this, let's say, based on constituent needs, what have you, you draft a bill, you have people that do that. So where does it go once you draft the bill initially? Does it go to a committee? Take us through that process, legislative process, which can be sometimes lengthy.
Oh, yeah, well, it can be really laborious. But, So what happens is we get that bill and written, and once it's written, and the important part about the written piece is I give them the idea, then I have to read. They kind of translate it into legalese, right? Which
you give them the thought, kind of. Okay.
Yeah, and so then you got to read it and try to make sure that it's doing what you want it to do. And so after you get it tweaked, it's read in on the House floor. So we go into session. The first thing that happens is we pray, we say the Pledge of Allegiance, and then new bills are entered, and they'll read in the bill and say House, Bill 301, a bill by Forsyth County Rep. Zenger. Social media, then the speaker assigns it to committees. And so he'll say, this goes to Reg Reform Committee, and then it goes to whatever other committee, and then it goes on to Rules and Operation of the House. Then what happens is you go and you have to work your bill. So you go to the chairman of those committees and say, hey, I want to hear this bill. Then when you go, that's where the debate happens. That's where you present your bill, and then everybody that's on that committee can start asking you questions. And the public can come and speak, and they speak at that, and you have to be able to defend it. And so I did that, and we had people speak out for it, people speak against it, had great conversation. Then if it passes, it gets referred to the next committee. You do it all over again. Then if it gets to rules and operation of the House, it's going to hit the floor. It's not going to not make it through. If it doesn't make through, it's going to be set aside for you to do a little tweak on it, but it's going to go. Once it gets to the House floor, you do the same thing all over again. The public can't speak at that one, but now you can have 119 other people ask you questions.
Right.
So you got to be able to defend it on the floor. Once it passes there, then it goes over to the Senate. And on the Senate side, it goes to their Rules Committee, and then hopefully they want to hear it. If they want to hear it, then they'll start to move it through the committees. If they pass it through their committees and it hits the floor and it passes, it goes to the governor. If they change it, it comes back to the House and we have to agree to the changes. It's called concurrence. Then it goes to the governor, and the governor can sign it, he can veto it, or he can let it lay. If he lets it lay for after 10 days, it becomes law without his signature.
Yeah, wow. So it gets assigned to committee. Got to come out of committee. Some of the bills stay in committee. They never make it out. So therefore, basically, they die because they never go anywhere. If the more committees you have to go through, the more risk I think that you may have. I'm assuming.
Well, a little bit. Typically, you go through 2 committees and then rules.
Okay.
If you write a bill that's just like a nowhere bill, when they read it in, it gets sent to only one committee.
Right.
That's the Rules Committee.
Right. and it's done.
That was its whole life was so and so has filed a bill, whatever,
and that's
entitled whatever. Goes to Rules. That's the end of it.
That's the end of it. Yeah, no, and I appreciate you sharing that. Right, there's one committee where it goes to die, if you will. How are we doing as a state financially? I know that obviously just getting through the budget process already. This is where the long session, hands and going, mano a mano on the budget and all that. A lot of money going to Western North Carolina. How are we doing financially? And are we seeing a tax break this year for personal income taxes? I read that somewhere. I'm a business owner, so I know people who are employees will see that in their W-2. Their weekly tax, their bill, their salary. Talk to us about where we are with the budget.
All right. So January 1st, taxes will drop to 3.99% for personal income tax.
That's
so there'll
awesome.
be another cut. Yep. So overall, the state is absolutely doing fantastic financially. We've had great fiscally conservative management over the last 12 or 14 years, and it has made a gigantic difference. And here's something that people don't realize, and they need to be proud about this and thankful for this. But we, over a period of 12 years, every year we put at least $500 million into the rainy day fund. And every budget season, we'd have people fussing at us. We need to spend it. We need to spend it. No, it's a rainy day fund. Well, guess what happened last fall in Western North Carolina? It rained.
That's right.
So we had over $6 billion in that fund. Now, the damage out there was super extensive. Federal government's going to bring some money in, but they're not going to bring it all in. And so when last fall, if people remember, we went in 3 times and started sending money. Well, we were able to just write a check, right? We didn't have to go out and sell bonds or rob Peter to pay Paul or any of that kind of stuff.
Or raise taxes or
anything. We had it there. And so that has been extremely helpful. And, when you hear people, some of the folks will say, oh, you should have sent more. Well, here's the thing. You can only spend it so fast. And we have to spend it on the right things at the right times to make sure that we get our reimbursement from the federal government. So you just can't go out there like the Wild West and start throwing it, or you're going to hurt yourself. So with that said, this year any extra money is going there, and then also we need to replenish some. We spent over $1 billion out of that fund, but keep in mind next fall will be in another hurricane season. So if one comes up, we got to be ready. So we have the state has very, very little debt. The only debt that we really have are bonds that you can't pay down. So overall, the state is in fantastic shape financially, and everybody should be very happy about that because there's a lot of states. That was what was really eye-opening to me when that hurricane hit and it was so devastating. And I saw what we were able to do, and then I looked at the state of other states, their financial thing, and I'm like, wow, I'm glad we're not them.
Right.
So we're, depending on where you read, We are somewhere between 5th and 10th in overall financial stability out of all the states in the country.
Wow, that's fantastic. Good, as a result of good leadership, financial management, conservative legislature. That's good stuff. And I know that we keep on hearing about all these companies that want to come here, plant their flag, open up businesses. Big stories you hear about.
I think just today in Greensboro, Jet Zero announced that they're coming. I think that's what was going on.
Exactly. So these companies are coming here, and I don't think they're getting. I don't know if we are giving them. Well, what do you call them? Tax incentives to come? I don't know if we're giving them anything, these companies to come here. I know that we're not big on trying to do that. I think did the governor do that, or is it the legislature that gives them that
well, it has to be approved through all the spending has to go through the House and the Senate.
Okay.
But I think the thing is, what we're trying to do is rather than give big incentives like that, I'm not saying we won't, but we want to just create an environment for business that's so attractive you don't need an incentive, right? You know, if you come here and we got low corporate tax, you know, hopefully, you know, I'm on reg reform and I keep trying to peel back regulation. And if we can continue to do those kind of things, make it very friendly, we won't need to do that. Now, there'll be times when we may do that to help out, maybe it's infrastructure or whatever, but right now, I mean, we are firing on all cylinders. It's incredible thing to behold.
Yeah, I know that we want companies to come here and remove, or you say, the barriers for them to come, less regulations, good corporate tax environment, good higher educational system for the students that they need, people to graduate to work in their businesses, and whether it's manufacturing or whether it's white collar software tech. That we're cranking out the people that that they need, right?
Yeah, and that's why, you know, another thing for folks to be proud of, they don't realize, but our university system, state university, is second to none in the country. It is absolutely excellent. The other thing we've really spent a tremendous amount of money on, and it is our community college system. You know, it has the dual enrollment for high school students, which I'm telling you, if you have high school kids and you're not taking advantage of that, you need to. I did it with my kids. It's fantastic. But also, there are 17 or 18 career tracks across the state in these schools where kids can go to school for 15, 16 months and they come out and they can get a job just like that, and they're making great money, no debt. For instance, in my area, we've got welding at Forsyth Tech. We've got linemen, you know, for the high wire linemen. We've got airplane mechanics. And these are these fields, and they go through, they get their degree in that, like a 2-year degree, off they go, and they're making great money right out of the gate.
That's great. Yeah, the blue collar, the trades, and we need them, and they make good money, and some of them start their own businesses and do better at times than someone with a 4-year college degree.
Oh, no question. I mean, you know, and there's a number of these kids that come out with a 4-year college education, and they still have to go back and get a master's, and they got $100,000 in debt.
Right. And so. I know you had mentioned you represent Forsyth County, and that's District 74, right? House District 74, which is you know, it's a big area in Winston-Salem, High Point.
Winston-Salem, so I'm on the west side. My district's on the west side of Winston-Salem.
Okay, gotcha. And I know that, and you know this, obviously, that the Hispanic community in North Carolina is growing very, very fast.
Yes.
We are the fastest growing minority population, you know, by double digits, and I believe across the nation, I think North Carolina, from a percentage perspective, was the fastest growing. Maybe not in sheer number, but in percentage, which is different. You know, so we have a lot of people, Hispanics, coming here to the state. They're moving here with their families, and because the jobs are here, meaning the construction, houses, hotels, you know, and all that labor is Hispanics, and obviously our ag industry, you know, which is I think number one, isn't it?
So ag is number one, right, and housing and construction is number two. I mean,
that's right, exactly. So those workers are Hispanic. A lot of them are Hispanic workers, and I know that the state has grown in their availability of services and documents and websites in Spanish, it's not there yet, but it's a work in progress.
It's a work in progress.
We're growing really, really fast. And I know that you, from your personal experience, running a business, had a lot of interaction and still do potentially with the Hispanic community, right?
Yeah.
So talk a little bit about that.
So I was in the construction business for since 1995, and so I built everything: houses, office buildings, the whole 9 yards. Well, vast majority of my workforce was Hispanic, and it was great because we, over your career, pretty much use the same contractors all the time. Well, we all raised our kids together. So, you know what I mean? So we got to know each other,
right.
And and so now it's interesting. I actually called one of my contractors. His name's Marcelo, and his son is now taking over his business. But I called him last year and said, Marcelo, I don't get to see you anymore. He said, "Oh, my friend, let's go have some lunch." So we went to lunch, and he brought his son, and I remember his son when he was a little guy. But we just got there to talk and laugh and have fun. And so I've been deeply connected to the Hispanic community for several decades, since probably the early 90s.
Yeah, and we do a lot of work, as you know, in the Hispanic community, just connecting them to various services that we offer as an organization.
Yeah.
The Hispano del Sur supports this program, Café con Hispanos, and there's a lot of needs out there, growing fast. Services, to be bilingual, because many of them are first generation Hispanics.
Yep.
So and we are not and this is for the audience who listening that are English. We got bilingual audience today, but that are English. That we are not a destination state, meaning we are not a first destination state. First destination states are the Californias, the Texas, the Floridas, the New York, Illinois. They're the first destination state. We're like a second destination when somebody knows someone who's living here already, or a family member or something. They went to the northern or the west, then they land here because there's some kind of connection, and then they enter the workforce and they become our labor. So we are
not just our labor. They start businesses.
Absolutely,
I mean, they have businesses, and good businesses, and so and they employ people, and so it's and what I feel like, and you probably know better than me, but it seems like, yes, it's second generation, but when second destination, but when people come here, they put down long-term roots.
Yes.
And it's great because then they become a part of the fabric of the community.
Absolutely, and they when they plant their roots, they get plugged into churches and community and the like, and we serve church communities and Catholic and Protestant and Methodist and Baptist. They get kind of plugged into those networks, those ecosystems, and then when they have a business and they have a church, they stay because now they're planted, if you will. Using a biblical term, they're planted basically here because now everything is connected: family, church, work, business, and the like. So there is clearly a growth here in this particular state, in North Carolina, with a lot of Hispanics coming here. We're going to go to a break. Vamos a un descanso ahora mismo. We're going to go to a break for a couple of minutes so that we can have some more coffee, and then we'll come back with Representative Jeff Zenger talking about the status of the House and a couple of other things. Thank you for being with us.
Corazón me dice que me ama y que conmigo quiere estar. Me dice que me busca cuando salgo a pasear, que ha hecho lo que existe para llamar mi atención, que quiere conquistarme y alegrar mi corazón. de mí si no me hubieras alcanzado? ¿Dónde estaría hoy si no me hubieras perdonado? Tendría un vacío en mi corazón, vagaría sin rumbo, sin dirección. Si no fuera por tu gracia y por tu amor, si no fuera por tu gracia y por tu amor, sería como un pájaro herido que se muere en el suelo. Sería como un ciervo que brama por agua en un desierto. Si no fuera por tu gracia y por tu amor, si no fuera por tu gracia y por tu amor, ¿qué sería de mí si no me hubieras alcanzado? ¿Dónde estaría hoy si no me hubieras perdonado? Tendría un vacío en mi corazón, vagaría sin rumbo, sin dirección. Si no fuera por tu gracia y por tu amor, si no fuera por tu gracia y por tu amor, sería como un pájaro herido que se muere en el suelo. Sería como un ciervo que brama por agua en un desierto. Si no fuera por tu gracia y por tu amor, si no fuera por tu gracia y por tu amor. Señor, reconocemos que sin ti estaríamos perdidos. Reconocemos que sin ti no tendríamos nada, oh Dios. Tú por tu misericordia nos has alcanzado, por tu gracia nos has hecho libres.
We're back with North Carolina House Rep Jeff Zenger, District 74, Winston-Salem, Forsyth area, giving us an update on the status of the legislature and a couple of things, how it's working, and the budget, and Helene, and talking about some legislation he presented. But I want to talk a little bit about, as we close out this segment of the show today, with the rep on getting involved, getting active, with the local process and also at the legislature. Talk a little bit about the importance of getting involved.
Sure. So what happens typically is we go ahead and are doing our thing, and folks are reactive. In other words, they don't get involved until something has really started to move down the track. And it's important that people stay involved or pay enough attention that they can be at the starting point of dealing with issues rather than reacting to somebody else doing it. And what is awful, I think, is email. We get a lot of people will just say, well, I'm just going to send them an email. You and 10,000 other people.
Right.
Or there's a bot that's just cranking them out. And so old-fashioned, make a phone call. But it's important to pay attention to not just state, but your local, whether it's your county commissioners or if it's your town, because we're the ones that can have the most impact. The federal government can have impact, and everybody pays attention to that because it's all over TV. But what's can really impact your day-to-day life is what's going on here. I just mentioned to you, Winston-Salem is looking at raising property taxes 27%.
Yeah.
That's a big deal.
Yeah, it is.
So, that's the kind of thing where, you pay attention, man. They need to get some pushback on that, And so that can make a big difference and if you have a mortgage, it's going to change your monthly payment. If you're a tenant in an apartment or something, it's going to change your rent sooner or later. And so I just encourage folks to know who your representatives are, get an opportunity to go to an event where you can meet your representative at the State House, your senator, or your county commissioners, or your local folks. Just do it. Just do it so you can talk to them, introduce yourself. Listen, I meet so many people, I can't possibly remember everybody's name. But I remember faces. And, if you make that connection and then we run into each other again, I'm going to more than likely remember that. But you need to understand that we're all just people. There's no difference between any of us at the bottom line. And so be able to talk to folks and talk to your representative and know who they are. And you don't have to do this and live, breathe, and eat it like I do, but you just can't check out on it for 9 months and then pop back in and go, oh no.
Right, and it's too late. You're behind the 8 ball, and you should be involved in your local stuff. I tell people all the time that local community, local councils. We're in Wake County right now. Your Apex Council, Cary Council, as an example. Your commissioners, which is Wake County Commissioners. If you're in Forsyth, it would be your Forsyth Commissioners. They have a lot of control over taxes, crime, policing, roads, things like that. Unless they're school system, unless they're state roads. Yeah, school systems, things like that. And that local, hyper local affects you more day to day. Then behind that is the legislature, and then behind that is federal. You hit the ball, right on the head there. That local is really important, and being involved, and then obviously speaking to people, getting to know you, and they getting to know them, and the policy that are being presented, and the taxes that are increasing. We're seeing increases here in Wake County as well. I mean, and we don't like it. And we are speaking up against it, hopefully they listen and they don't raise them as much, because I don't want to pay him, and I'm sure you don't want to pay yours either. Unreasonable numbers in your area.
Is we need to make sure that they're spending it wisely.
Yeah, well, that's another issue.
That's another issue. But it's one thing to raise taxes; it's another thing to raise taxes and be wasting money.
Right, exactly. Not seeing an ROI on that money, that the tax dollars, our money. No, that's great. That's really good information to share. And thank you for being with us here today. And we're talking with Jeff Zenger, North Carolina House member. District 74, Forsyth, Winston-Salem. Thanks for coming to the studio and sharing with us, the audience, what's going on and how legislation works and the budget and all this kind of stuff. And we appreciate you taking time to talk to the audience.
It's my honor to be here. It's great. And for anybody, again, if you see me out and about, feel free to come up and say hello. Or if you're in the General Assembly, come by my office when we're in session. I'm glad to talk to you, and I appreciate everything that the Hispanic community means to our community. You play a vital role, and glad to have you be a part of the fabric of our community.
Thank you. Muchísimas gracias, audiencia, para escuchar el programa de hoy. Estamos terminando el programa de hoy, entonces lo veremos el próximo jueves. Bendiciones a todos.
Que se muere en el sueño, sería como un ciervo que brama por agua en un desierto. Si no fuera por tu gracia y por tu amor, si no fuera por tu gracia y por tu amor, si no fuera por tu gracia y por tu amor. Gracias, Señor, por tu gran amor y tu misericordia para con nosotros. Sí, Padre. Sí, Señor. Oh, te damos gloria. de mí si no me hubieras alcanzado.
La Celestial 106.5 está cada vez más comprometida contigo. Escucha cada jueves Café con Hispanos con el pastor Gilbert Pagan. A las 4 de la tarde, disfruta de un contenido de actualidad y relación directa con nuestra comunidad, un programa de fe, valores familiares, negocios, gobierno y más. Recuerda que cada jueves tienes una cita con la Celestial a las 4 de la tarde. Café con Hispanos con el pastor Gilbert Pagan. Gracias por sintonizar Café con Hispanos, la voz de nuestra gente hispana en Carolina del Norte. Si desea contactar a nuestro conductor Gilbert Pagan, llame hoy al 919-931-4597. 919-931-4597. Síganos en nuestras redes sociales como Hispanos del Sur. Puede enviarnos un correo electrónico a connect@hispanosdelsur.com. Hasta pronto.
Oye, mucha gente por ahí me están llamando loco, pero yo no le hago caso, ¿viste? Porque yo tengo a Jesucristo en mi corazón. Y digan lo que digan, yo estoy tranquilo. Ay.